You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
So I feel like during this, our pandemic podcast days, I couldn't think of a P word for progress, maybe? I don't know.
Period.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Thank you. There, I have been highlighting or lowlighting some of the events that have happened to me. So
What is it this week? Is it a highlight or a low light?
It's a low light. It's
no.
But it's a pandemic theme, because you know how there's that joke everyone's been making about nature is healing all the time. Nature is healing, and well, it's healed a lot. So yesterday I was out for my walk in the morning, and a coyote went right past me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's scary.
It was very scary.
Yeah.
And I was just so thankful I didn't have either of my dogs with me, which I don't actually take them out in the morning for that reason, but this was right on the street with me. So I get home a bit rattled because, you know, it went into the middle of the road and just kept running down. It was quite terrifying. Anyway, get home and I'm in my backyard. That's where I feel I'm safe to take my dogs out, in my own yard. And a crow attacked me.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. How did it attack you?
Well, I was leaning down to look at a plant, and it hit my back. It just hit my back.
With its,
It actually
like it
physically
flew
attacked you.
into your back?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I think it just swooped and let me know, like I felt its wings on my back. And I looked up and I saw it sitting on the top of my garage. And I thought, oh my gosh, I might be building a nest. I don't know what's going on up there. And then my poor little Cash, you know, my little guy, he's standing out in the yard. And I'm like, okay, Cash, let's go in. And the crow attacks him.
Oh, no.
What?
Yeah. And he was so afraid. I mean, that guy's afraid of, like, you know, if you drop something, he rattles. And this crow went right up his backside, just like I could see its claws. I mean, obviously,
Oh
couldn't
my
pick him up,
gosh.
but yeah. And I just thought, what has happened? I mean, East Van is not rural. Would you describe it as rural?
No, but it's got those city animals that do make their presence known.
But I mean, I feel like I'm under attack now. I feel like that coyote.
But like,
could've-
yeah, crows they're supposed to be really smart and remember people and remember faces.
Yeah, what did I do to a crow? When people say that to me all the time, they're like, well, crows remember. I'm like, remember what? We didn't have a run-in. I didn't say anything bad about it. Like, there was no reason for it to attack me.
Last year, our neighbors had, like, there is a murder of crows sitting on the telephone wire over their yard, just making like crowing noises for hours and hours. And we were like, what's going on? Like, why are there like 300 crows here? And it turns out, I guess, like a crow had died on their property.
Oh.
Not like anything to do with them. Like they just found a dead crow like somewhere in their backyard. And yeah, like he had to, the man who lives there had to go out wearing like a handkerchief over his face and a baseball cap and like move the crow body somewhere else. And that is only then did the murder of crows leave.
Wow.
What if they murdered it? What if it was them? And they were
I
all
don't.
just coming
He could have
around?
just died from natural causes and decided to die there, right? Like they don't know. They have no idea how it got there.
I think that everyone had that experience when you decide to watch The Birds. Have either of you seen The Birds?
We watched
Yes.
it last year
Yeah.
in Andrea Gin's backyard.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I mean, after I saw that, I never looked at birds quite the same way, right? Like,
No.
you just don't. You just think, I don't know what you're thinking, but you can fly. And that gives you so much power over everything else. And I suddenly got that movie.
Well, we got a notice from our the building manager because we have a courtyard in between our the three apartment buildings that make up our complex, and we got a note from the property manager that there are crow's nests in our courtyard this year.
Oh.
And so we have to be pretty careful because they're extra territorial around their nestings and
It's,
stuff
I think
like
between
that.
June and, or sort of like May to July, isn't that the time?
Yeah, I
that
think
we're
it's-
yeah. So
Yep.
good luck to you. That's all I
Yeah,
can
good
say.
luck.
I mean, it's
You will never recover from a crow attacking
Guess
you.
you're not going in the courtyard this summer.
Yeah, I mean, I've been attacked by seagulls at Granville Island. Literally, 2 dive bombed me so that one
Did you have
could.
food?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
2 dive bombed me and hit my arm so that one could get the pierogies out of my hand. I didn't understand
Wow.
fully how much they love pierogies, but lesson learned. Because I ended up with just sour cream all over my feet and just holding an empty container. And the crows had everything. Or no, sorry, the seagulls. The seagulls had everything.
Wow.
Yeah, it
Amazing.
But
was.
at least you
it
could
was so
attach that to
coordinated.
having food, right? You know?
Yeah. I wasn't unprompted.
I think they must do that to dozens of tourists every day.
Oh, 1,000%. There are notices all over the food court at Granville Island, and particularly don't go outside with pierogies. I just happened to have missed that sign.
It said pierogies, actually?
Specifically pierogies. They'll take all food. They'll take all food, but they specifically said pierogies are the
thought you were
real
kidding.
driver. No, they're and I went back in and I went back to the pierogi place and I was like, yeah. And I'm just covered in sour cream. And she's like, you went outside. And I was like,
Oh.
yeah. And she's like, yeah, we're serious about the sign. People don't think we are. And then
Well,
I
it
was
sounds
like,
ridiculous, pierogies.
and then I was like, what sign? And she's like, that one, literally at your eyeball. And I was like, oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Seagulls love pierogies.
This is news to me. This is huge news. I mean, I had a seagull once swoop down and steal a hot dog out of my hand.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that was something. It just put it knows how to do it, right? It just
It sure
swooped
does.
in, little talons down, grab my hot dog and off into the wild.
Have you ever watched that? Carlos really loves to show me. There's this video of this I don't know, this 3-year-old kid, and the seagull tries to take the food from her, and he's got it in his mouth, and she grabs the seagull by the neck and yanks the food back out of its beak and won't let go of its neck. And the seagull's fine, but this is the most boss 3-year-old I've ever seen. She just was not having any of it. And she shoved that food right from that seagull's beak right back into her mouth.
Those are those kids that you wish you could somehow, you're not allowed, put a microchip in them or something. That'd be weird. But there are some of those kids you meet and you're like, I want to see what happens to you when you get older.
I would love to. Actually, maybe that's the one sort of fun part about these stupid NFTs is that we're finding out from all these people who were these meme kids 10 years ago when memes were
Right.
starting. They're now having the selling of these NFTs from their original memes. We're getting sort of updates on where they've gone in the last 10 years. That might be the one positive thing about selling NFTs.
What happened to Charlie's, finger? Or no, Charlie bit my finger. What's happening there? The other one I'm curious about, I don't know if either of you saw this one, where it was at Disneyland, and they do this kind of fight. Darth Vader comes out, and he's fighting, and, he's fighting one of the good guys. And anyway, this little girl gets to participate in the thing. They ask one kid to come up, right? And this little girl went right up to Darth Vader and kneeled in front of him.
Wow. Just pledged her allegiance to the dark side immediately.
She was 8. She's 8 years old, and she just kneels. And Darth Vader's all, get up. And the other people in the performance are all, what the... We can't.
Amazing.
You can't do this. Everyone in the audience is all confused, and I don't know if her parents knew. Mom, Dad, just let me. I'm gonna go up and pledge allegiance to Darth Vader, and they were like, "You do you."
Do you think that's what Richard Attenborough did when he saw the stage version? He was like, you know what? I'm gonna pledge allegiance to Darth Vader and make the darkest, grimmest version of this incredible Pulitzer Prize winning Broadway show. I'm just going to make the dullest version film that I can.
Okay, well, this is our segue. Weirdly.
It's just like the dark side of a successful Broadway musical is this film. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And you're listening to Pop This. And we are like sort of in the home stretch of our 2-month series.
Andrea Gin could not be happier.
Musicals and music movies. Yeah, how you holding up, AG?
It's been a lot, and this is probably the darkest one we've seen.
You know what? I think for all of us, really.
Yes.
Maybe. We'll see.
I have to say that I liked it only because I've never seen the Broadway version.
Fair. And I think that that's a really great disclaimer for this film. So we're talking about a chorus line.
We are. And,
So,
yes.
one question, A-dubs.
Yes.
Why did you select this one?
Well, because I've seen a touring production in Vancouver, and I didn't love it, but I also knew that Kelly Bishop starred in its original Broadway run. I knew how important it was. It won a Pulitzer Prize the year it came out. Like, I knew that it was one of the longest running productions for a really long time. Like, it's got all kinds of accolades behind it. And so I thought, okay, well, they made a film version. Let's see what they did with the film version. Like, maybe I could sort of understand better the magic of the Broadway version. Also, I think because there was a salute to the production that we watched, a salute to like the 40th anniversary or 45th or some kind of anniversary, big milestone. They brought as many remaining original A Chorus Line cast members up on stage, and they had a whole thing, and we watched that at home here, and I just thought, yeah, like, let's give the movie a chance. Let's see what's happening here, because I hadn't really heard much about the movie other than I knew that it had been made. And I'm always interested in sort of the transfer of Broadway shows to film and how often unsuccessful they are. And shocking.
Really?
Shocking.
Okay, because I have no frame of reference for that, and I enjoyed the movie, so I'm sorry.
I enjoyed parts of it as well. I'm not gonna lie, like, I am such a sucker for how things get made, kind of like a glimpse behind the curtain, as it were. Like, I love that kind of stuff. But this, I was just like, wow, this is frustrating and a little lifeless,
Yeah, when I watched it, like, before I read your comments with all of the reviews and stuff in it, I was thinking, like, this is one musical in the series that we've watched that I would want to watch like on Broadway if I ever got a chance, because
Same. I would definitely, yes.
Because you would think, like, oh my God, the dancing must be spectacular to see in real life. And
yeah, and that's the thing, because as soon as you see like the big choreographed numbers, like, I don't know about you guys, but like in the beginning, they have that first like huge choreographed number, and I was like delighted. Like, my chest got excited. I got like, I felt that feeling of what it must be to be in the theater, and then it just kind of goes away, and I didn't get it back again until I got the mirrors.
I just want to say dancing. I had no idea that Janet Gretzky was in this, and that was just a shocking moment.
Yeah, I know. I had that moment of realization.
Now, I don't know if that's only Canadians watching this go, what the? Maybe. I don't know. But it was a shocker for me.
I was really excited to discover that, Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon's daughter is in it.
Oh.
And that thrilled me.
Which character is she?
She is Christine.
Okay,
the one who's married.
That's their daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not the greatest part, but
No, but she had a certain something.
No,
and
she did.
She was good. She was
beautiful.
Good at moves too.
Oh my God. But yeah, I have to say, I feel like from reading all the reviews and your outline, and I feel like I got out of it what I was supposed to get out of it. I guess what you're saying is like in terms of the, the feelings and how, what it's like to try and get older in a business that only celebrates people who are bendy and 16, it seems.
Yeah.
But I can see the parts where people felt it was lifeless, in the sense that you said we didn't get the like a lot of dances. We didn't get a lot of that.
Yeah, and it's called a chorus line. It should be nonstop dancing. Do you think we should do some background?
Sure, I can do background.
Great.
Okay. A Chorus Line is a 1985 American musical drama film directed by Richard Attenborough and starring Michael Douglas. The screenplay by Arnold Schulman is based on the book of the 1975 stage production of the same name by James Kirkwood Jr. and Nicholas Dante. The songs were composed by Marvin Hamlish and Edward Kleben. Released theatrically on December 13th 1985 by Columbia Pictures, the film received mixed reviews from critics and was a box office bomb, grossing only $14 million from a $25 million budget. To give you an idea of A Chorus Line's significance, an unprecedented box office and critical hit, the musical received 12 Tony Award nominations and won 9, in addition to the 1976 Pulitzer Prize for Drama. The original Broadway production ran for 6,137 performances, becoming the longest-running production in Broadway history until surpassed by Cats in 1997, and the longest-running Broadway musical originally produced in the U.S. until surpassed in 2011 by the Revival of Chicago.
Like, I just think that's so significant for a Broadway production. Like, it makes a lot of sense. Some of the stuff we're going to get to later. I can read the synopsis. Hundreds of hopefuls congregate at a cattle call for Broadway dancers. A sour director, Zach, and his brisk assistant whittle down the ranks until they're left with 16 dancers. All tell their life stories, some tragic, some comic, and explain their love of dance. Tension mounts when Cassie, once both a big star and the director's lover, but now desperate for a part, auditions. But Zach must choose only the best for his show. And that's the write-up from Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I really liked about it a lot, and I assume this is why it's fun to see on Broadway, is it is in real time, pretty much. And I'm sure when you see it as a stage production, it feels like you are watching the actual audition for a Broadway chorus line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that is like part of the magic of it for sure. Mm-hmm. And particularly like people, I think about seeing it in 1976 and like imagining what, hearing these stories that they share. Like, even though in the film we get sort of like compromised versions of these stories a lot, in 1976, these stories would have been kind of jaw-dropping in their sort of confessional nature.
Yeah. I mean, when I was watching it, I've seen enough plays to understand how each individual stories are going to like elicit feelings from you when you're watching it in person. But I just wasn't feeling it watching the movie for whatever reason. Yeah, I don't know why, but I could see how a live production would have been pretty amazing to see, probably.
It did make me want to see a live production, but I felt like I got the sense of desperation from the dancers. I think when they were all made to give their ages, there was a definite chill, knowing that one dancer was about to be 30 and how they had to keep showing her huffing and puffing and that she was not keeping up. And then when you hear that one person there is like 17 and 18 and, all of that stuff. So I got that, from it, that weird mix of joy for loving dancing and then the horrible side of having to compete for parts and not only just competing for the parts, but obviously whatever the director wants, these stories of their life. And is that usual? I mean, I don't know anything about.
Me neither.
I mean, well, that's one of the things I was thinking a lot about, the whole perform your trauma thing, right? And like how there have been a lot of reports out of different acting schools and different companies that they've been sort of coercive or abusive or bullying environments because they do want to sort of break you as a performer so that they can like build you back up again and get that like real vulnerability and that. But I just think like I think there have been like really unethical unethical investment in that. People haven't like sort of been protected the way that they needed to be. I don't know that this particular casting session would go like this. Like, I think we're meant to see Zach as someone who is such a genius that his unorthodox methods get these incredible results. So everyone puts up with him being kind of a jerk. I don't. Again, haven't been in a lot of casting sessions, so I don't know for sure. But I do know that this, in general, is kind of a problem in a lot of acting schools.
Yeah, and I felt uncomfortable. I know this is baked into the story, and you're supposed to feel like this, but I felt deeply uncomfortable through the movie because it feels like, Michael Douglas's character is this kind of menacing figure sitting in like literal darkness and speaking kind of like a voice of God to these kind of vulnerable people on stage and who have to just do whatever he asks or they're going to get cut from the chorus line. And I found it very interesting that we watched this movie this week because we record a week ahead of time, but this week it was the story about Naomi Osaka withdrawing from the French Open has been all over the news. And sort of, everybody's been thinking about how amazing it is that, someone could prioritize their mental health over, having to do, the quote unquote, their job. And she had sort of, the courage and the ability to say like, I don't want to do this. I have to look after myself and I'm stepping away. And, like while I was watching A Chorus Line, I was thinking about that in regards to all these dancers, like at what, like they didn't have the freedom to be like, I'm not going to answer your questions. Like this is horrible. I'm going to just walk away, like they had to.
And even when they were trying with a bit of humor, he cut them off too. Like that's a big ask. And as a person who usually defaults to humor in awkward situations, I understood that. And I don't think you're meant to be called on it, especially in front of a group of people, because you're just trying to get through this absolutely untenable situation, which is in front of a bunch of people you don't even know. But at the same time, because
what does this have to do with their job?
Well, I don't know. It's just more a power trip, right? And that is the deal that people have entered into when they want to be, as you said, like in acting, or when the deal you make to be chosen, right? That deal, when you're in your mind, when you can go and tell people that I was the chosen one, seems sometimes to have to come with, and I was chosen by this guy. Oh, he hates everyone. He's legendarily dark and menacing, but he picked you. Like that's the deal that we all sign up for in so many professions.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of actually really like excited for it to be 2021 and people are starting to say, no, that doesn't have to be the deal. You know what I mean?
No. Why should I have to work in the kitchen and have people scream at me? I just want to make good food.
Exactly. To be able to like confront that and call it out and raise attention to it. And that's why I wonder, A Chorus Line is so interesting.
Yeah, but that's why I wonder, like what Lisa was saying, do you think auditions have improved for people, or do you think it's still like people feel pressured to, then they have to like do whatever and say whatever and to get a part? Or do you think it's like a person like that would not be holding auditions in that way in 2021?
Oh, I think it's still happening in 2021. I'm pretty excited about like the fall of a lot of this behavior. But I know like even, I mean, I'm not going to say specifically, but I know that like even, sort of really, really like prominent institutions and acting schools, sort of like locally and throughout Canada, and stage production, like theater companies throughout Canada, like a lot of this stuff has come to light the last 5 years. And a lot of students are very much saying like, it's one thing to invite us to explore our vulnerabilities to make our characters richer. It's another thing to be bullied into
Yes.
a fearful environment where, I mean, like Michael Douglas's character, it's not even just literal emotional extraction that he's doing and manipulation and bullying. He's not letting them go to the bathroom. He's not letting them have a 5-minute. Like they've stood for several hours from what we're supposed to understand. Like grueling dance routines. And then at the end, he gets to give this speech about how he cares about all of them. Like, you know what? Screw you. You don't. Like,
well, is that in the musical? Is the scene where the one dancer hurts his knee and collapses, and he goes running up and to show his caring. He's like, "This is the best doctor," and
I don't remember, but I believe so. But even just like the end thing where he's just like, "Have you all thought about what you're gonna do next?" And like he wants people, you know, he gets to. And I can't remember how much of this is like Michael Douglas's portrayal of this guy, because there's lots of different ways to read some of those lines, and Michael Douglas has a very specific delivery, as we all know, which is creepy.
Yeah. Well, when you saw the live production, how was that character played?
God, I don't even remember. It was about 10 years ago when it was coming.
Is he sitting
through.
in the audience? Doing that?
I don't think we even see him. He's just a voice. He's just a voice.
Oh.
For a long time. And I don't know if he even, I can't remember at what point he becomes part of the production.
Oh, interesting. I like that idea a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
That's
like kind
great.
of a voice.
Well, let's just, can we, I know there's lots of places to go, but discuss that role of Cassie, which I found a super interesting element of this whole story.
Yeah, Cassie is kind of fascinating. Like, and I don't recall how it all shook out in the actual Broadway production. Like it's not like their romance isn't quite as central, to my mind, in the actual like musical stage version, because like the song that she performs after like when they're sort of like all they've had their whole thing, and then What I Did for Love, like she doesn't perform that as sort of like a meaningful heart song to him. That's actually like that's a song that like is more of the group after the dancer has hurt his knee.
Yeah, that seems better.
Okay, yeah. So is
That
it more
seems
about
like
what
a
I did
better
for my love
choice.
of dance as opposed to
Exactly. Exactly.
Because that line you in your outline from Kelly Bishop, can we discuss that? Because that
Well,
is
I just want to say
fascinating.
about Cassie, like singing that song didn't make sense in the movie to me because
Nope.
she moved to Hollywood.
She left him.
Yeah, she didn't. Like if she had stayed in New York and given up her dream of going to Hollywood, then I could see, I guess, why she would sing that song. But the fact is she didn't. So yeah, I was confused by that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
And so the Kelly Bishop quote, I just want to front end and say this is something she allegedly said. I looked for the original like citation, the attribution. I cannot find the attribution. So I just want to say
Still a good quote.
allegedly
Whoever
she said
said
this. It's a great quote. I love it so much. Yeah. So so I want to be clear. Kelly played Sheila. So Kelly Bishop, the original,
the older woman who is
our beloved Emily Gilmore, and Dirty Dancing's mom. She played Sheila on Broadway. She said, quote, "It was appalling when director Richard Attenborough went on a talk show and said, 'This is a story about kids trying to break into show business.' I almost tossed my TV out the window. I mean, what an idiot. It's about veteran dancers looking for one last job before it's too late for them to dance anymore. No wonder the film sucked."
Yeah, I'll be honest and say if that's what the Broadway musical was about, that was not achieved here. There were nuances of that through Cassie and through some of the other dancers, but no, it definitely had a kids breaking into show business. It was like fame.
Yeah, and I can see how like that would be a lot more compelling, you know, to sort of think about dancers who have like the short lifespan of dancers and how they sacrifice so much to make it to Broadway, which is the pinnacle, of what they do. And, like at some point they're forced to stop because they're not getting jobs anymore. And sort of like hearing, I can see how that would be a more compelling set of stories to hear than just this kind of typical, like some of these younger dancers being like, I'm trying to make it in showbiz,
Yeah, no, that we've seen that before many
Yeah.
times, and that struck me as even more depressing that it was taken out, because there are so many of the elements of this musical are timeless. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it felt like, honestly, even though it's 1985, it's really hard to tell that. By the way the dancers look, by the way they're telling stories, by what it is they want out of life. It feels like it could be now. You could do this now, and that's probably why it still resonates. And I saw in the outline too that Ryan Murphy wants to make a series about it. Yeah, he should. This deserves, like, I think we can get so lost in the fact that we think we're having new conversations, and we are not ever having new conversations about anything.
Yeah, I just read, like, this is not really related to this, but like, we're not having new conversations really ever at all. I just read this like big article from the New York Times from 1971 about how Bob Dylan turned his back on protest music, and how Joan Baez calling him out in song made him sort of like come back to release a protest song so that he could like curry favor with his old fans. This is a 5,000 word article about Bob. Like, this is the same article that's published about Bob Dylan every 3 years since 1971.
Yeah.
And I love it and I appreciate it, but like, never a new conversation.
No, never a new. And that is what, when I was watching this, thinking how 30 felt old, like in this production, right? When Sheila says she's 30 and everyone kind of like, and in some ways though, and I don't know, again, I feel like we're kind of dancing, excuse the pun there, between the stage and the film adaptation. But when she says, and I'm happy for it, and you realize, and then she says she has a daughter, and you realize that she's the person that gets to go smoke because she's just not putting up with this garbage anymore. And you realize that the wisdom that she has and the way that she's, would like this part, but she's not really willing to be, even when he starts, like you say, bullying her with her story, she wasn't changing it. She told it just the same way.
She's been around a few auditions. I think 30 is actually a lie. I think she's well over 30.
I thought that too. Yeah.
And that she just said 30 because she sort of called him on it. Just daring him to sort of like recognize that they had been in a show together before. And because he does know her and he knows her by name and he kind of knows her story. And I just loved how like she would just get a little bit like, just a tiny bit tired in sort of the larger choreographed sequences. And then she'd just stop and walk off stage.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I did. And so it's so depressing to watch somebody have all of this wisdom and greatness about her and then having to see her feel vulnerable because she can't do this thing anymore.
So, I mean, one of the things that I love about films from the 80s is that, there's a realism to a lot of the people. Like, everyone looks a little bit different from each other. There isn't sort of like a uniformity to like sort of the work people have had done yet.
Yeah.
And I really do enjoy that. Like, I do enjoy sort of the physical differences that we see in just like how people's faces are. And so I think like, but I just did not, you can't just tell me over and over again that Cassie is special. I have to sort of see it at some point. And I
felt the same way.
Yeah.
She's a good dancer and stuff.
That outfit she shows up in, I'm just like, what even is that?
And it was
and I felt
hard.
like maybe like the solo that she did that was supposed to identify her specialness. I didn't really see it in that.
And the flashbacks and that terrible hair. Like, oh my gosh.
Maybe it was the incredibly distracting, hard burn saxophone that was actually really sort of, I mean, how can you dance when a saxophone is obviously vibrating like weird love pulses between Michael Douglas and Cassie? Like, it's so gross what the work that saxophone has to do to mimic sexual activity between the two of them. Like, my God, that is almost obscene. I felt
They really did. But did you read in the Wikipedia entry too that the initial, as they were, what do they call it? Like when they're just about to put it on Broadway, they had some test audiences, and the test audiences didn't like it when Cassie didn't make it in.
Oh
They
yeah,
had
and
to
so
change
they
that.
yeah. I just
So that,
you know
but that's the musical, not the movie.
yeah, I know.
So the audience needed to see that someone special gets chosen.
Don't give audiences what they want all the time. Like,
I
sometimes
agree
yes,
with you, but
I
that's
just
But then the audience has got this right in the sense that if it's a much darker story and it became that big of a hit, I think that's quite incredible. And I mean, sometimes I think it's incredible that Evita and Cabaret are famous musicals because those are dark and depressing stories. And Jesus
think
Christ
about
Superstar?
Chicago is like
yeah, holy cow.
yeah. And the other thing that like kind of really depressed me about the film, especially because the
The
film comes out,
leotards.
no, that impressed me.
Those
That
80s
impressed me.
leotards, man. Those are
They look like
harsh.
now, but what do they wear now when they dance? Don't they wear leotards?
But I don't think they're that extremely high cut up
The
there.
extreme high cut
Yeah.
nature is a little
Okay.
bit extra.
It just
No.
looks like they'd be so uncomfortable.
No,
Well,
so
dancing's uncomfortable. Yeah.
honestly, a lot of that dancing looked extremely uncomfortable. Also, are all the men wearing cups? Because I don't do men just dance in cups? Like, what is that? Because like a uniform bulge is not like none of like all of the women get to have their own camel toes, whereas all of the men just get the same uniform bulge. Like, what? That's
It
like
seems
a
like
bunch
it
of
must be an
dancing
awkward
Ken dolls.
decision on how you're going to put that somewhere.
well, where
for
are
the
you going to
dancing.
put it? Yeah, I don't know.
I
Anyway.
don't know either.
So the thing that I want to talk about, just like briefly, is just so the stage production was a big breakthrough for sort of queering Broadway, and this is from the Wiki article. So the stage musical is one of the first productions to address the subject of gay actors within the theater. The film version opted instead to make a more family-friendly film in 1985. By not dealing with the experiences of gay actors.
Which is,
like,
what are you talking about? This is Broadway. These are dancers. Like, that is...
but can you imagine that in 1976, it was one of the first productions to actually acknowledge the experience, the lived experiences of gay actors on Broadway. 10 years later, Hollywood has to make it more family friendly. Like, that is,
but to be
mad
fair,
in
he goes
retrospect.
on... The director does go on to try and kill everyone in Jurassic Park.
I mean, I guess. I mean, I need more math about how that absolves this.
I've got some red yarn and some pictures on the back
You've
wall
worked out
here,
a whole
and I've worked
mystery
this whole-
board.
Yeah.
No, I just it just irritates me because this is like, so I mean, this is one of the reasons where I actually think like Ryan Murphy doing a 10-part miniseries about a chorus line and like sort of adapting a chorus line into a 10-part miniseries could be very good.
I think so.
Because it won't, I mean, hopefully it won't sort of like, pinkwash the story, and we'll actually have like, an acknowledgement of the lived experiences of gay actors in the theater world. But also at the same time, a 10-part miniseries for what was a 2.5-hour production is double the length.
But there might be some information about the making of and the people who wrote
Yeah.
it.
I wonder how they're gonna
Marvin
expand.
Hamlish.
Because
Or he
there's
said, but
But
It's
you
not
don't
like-
think it's just a straight up adaptation of the
No.
show. You think it'll be like moving parts.
well, like you said, it's a Pulitzer Prize winning play. The way it was developed, I definitely think there's lots of room to do a lot more about this.
because like how many dancers are at the core of this? Like 17 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like how in the movie too, like some people's stories get the full treatment And then some
Yeah.
people's stories are just like, meh, glossed over. You get like 30 seconds to talk
Well, some people's
about
lives, to be fair, are not interesting. Like, I was gonna say.
Janet Gretzky has had a fascinating life.
But it would have been weird if
deserved
she
more time to tell her story.
It would have been a good story though. She just came out and said, "Well, here's the thing. This is my last chance, and then I'm going to marry this Canadian hockey player. So I really got to make it."
She dreamed a different kind of future, I suppose.
That's what she had planned.
Yeah. What did you think about the Dance 10 Looks 3 song?
Which one was that?
It's the one about her boob job and how she gets her full makeover. And
I thought it was great. I thought it was very honest. No, I just thought that was probably one of the better elements of the story. Again, back to what it would have been if I'd seen it on stage, is it spoke to the harshness of being in this industry, not just dance, but any sort of like art, like if you wanted to be in acting or any other thing, right? I think that it was just a very honest, and I liked her. I liked the way she talked about it. No, I thought that's the stuff I liked about the show.
Yeah.
I agree. Like it's a strong part of the movie, but it just added to like my sadness that I was feeling.
But we're supposed to be sad.
Yeah, I know. You're supposed to feel that way, but it's just like everything just like added on to this, like all these people and how they're treated and how desperate they are for parts and how they have to go through
like watching
plastic
Dreamgirls.
surgery.
Oh my gosh, we already watched this. It was called Dreamgirls, and the pretty girl who could sing didn't get the big part, did she? No, she did not.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is a play that, or like a musical that like wants to address all of that sadness and still make it, compelling and dynamic. And I guess this is why I'm just frustrated with Richard Attenborough's direction. Like
listen to you.
There's a reason that we do have to blame the director ultimately if it's a failure.
Yes.
I think because like this, this is like a show that has a lot going for it and it's so popular. They decided to screw with the musical numbers. They decided like the adaptation itself, some of the stuff that I was reading about like how everyone was like, oh, they couldn't possibly adapt Hair. And then they made that so amazing as a movie, which I've never seen the movie of Hair. And I actually really love the stage production for the most part. I've seen some incredibly strong stage productions of Hair where I've actually like been crying several times. And now I want to watch the movie adaptation of Hair, but this was not one of those strong
Jesus
transfers.
Christ Superstar as well. A really great production. But I think it's because it fooled around with the idea, whereas this was just super straightforward.
Yeah, like that straight up. It's like on a stage. There's not. Well, I mean, there's not a lot of like it has to be kind of static in that way. But like, I just.
But you're right. They could have just done a voice for a while. We didn't. But Michael Douglas isn't going to sign on without being Michael Douglas, right?
So sinister,
I know.
Yet kind of sexy. I don't know. Am I wrong?
No, I'm always team Michael Douglas. Sorry.
What?
On Michael Douglas?
After Romancing the Stone, he's always had my heart. So.
Oh, I've always found him kind of like a jerk and kind of menacing.
Yeah, sometimes I like that. It's not good.
But you know what I really liked is that for years I've always known that song at the end, that one singular sensation.
Yeah.
And I've always thought it to be a very like fun song, and watching this musical, but when they get to it, it felt really dark and sad, because I realized this is just a song about that desperation to want to be the chosen one. But that was such a great twist. I felt like, it was so powerful then.
Yeah, I had no
agree.
It's like a chorus line is one of the most well-known musicals of all time, and so of course that song won, and you had that vision of dancers doing high kicks in a line wearing a golden outfit and top hats, and that's all I knew about this story going in. I had no idea that it was you know, it was going to be kind of a dark and sad story. I thought it
Neither
would
did
be
I,
a
but like I said, that song when there just suddenly nobody else will do, it just speaks to so much about their longing. You know, they're longing to be that person that someone picks out of the 300 and something dancers, right? You're the one. That's it. That's the only reason you're going out there for those auditions. That's the only reason. It's because you're going to be chosen. It's very
And so
heartbreaking.
much of it is like just so impossible to sort of figure out because I don't know, like have you guys like I mean, we've all seen a lot of sort of like we've watched a lot of American Idol and The Voice, and we've watched So You Think You Can Dance, and we've watched you've watched the competitive like figure skating like shows like Stars on Ice or whatever, like just different kinds of reality shows that task people with sort of competing in a spotlight to see whether or not the spotlight catches their magic.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Just pick me. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's weird because sometimes someone really can be incredibly technically proficient and a beautiful performer. And yet there's still kind of
that thing.
There's still something that doesn't sparkle. And it's so ineffable and weird. It is fascinating. Like I get frustrated trying to figure out what it is that like
it's
some
Jennifer
kind of like
Lopez.
little
It's Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez has everything.
No, here's the thing. Jennifer Lopez is okay at singing. She's okay at dancing and she's okay at acting. But Jennifer Lopez
she has
she has so much charisma and so much charm.
She has and she's electrifying. But honestly, like everything else, you're like, yeah, that's fine. Like it's fine. Right? You're not going, that's the best dancing I've ever seen in my life. You're not saying that.
But you're right. There's something that really sparkles behind her eyes that makes her incredibly compelling to watch.
Have you ever watched Britney Spears sing and dance? It's not great. But she's Britney Spears.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to think about here. Also, that reminds me that at some point down the road, I want us to do Crossroads.
Yes, sure.
Yeah,
that's really peak Britney Spears acting. So I'm glad we're going to get to that.
Exactly. So there's one review that I do want to read. It's very short. It's maybe the meanest thing People magazine has ever printed.
What? Wow.
This $24 million extravaganza is an empty shell. So cautious it lacks even the sleazy energy of a real desecration.
Ooh, wow. Somebody really...
It is, honest to God, one of the meanest things I've ever seen printed in People magazine, and I cannot get over it for the life of me.
Wow. I'm just blessed to hear that. That was, I wish I could say something quite as that.
Like, I don't like it. I don't like this transfer that much, but I don't feel that strongly about it.
I presume everybody who did this reviewed it had seen the Broadway production at least several times to be so offended. That's my only assumption. Because what else would you base this on? Like you almost have to have seen it to watch this.
Honestly, I'm trying to imagine being a movie critic in 1985. You haven't seen like necessarily a ton of stuff that's like literally lifted off of Broadway and then just thrown onto the screen. Like you've usually seen slightly more slightly like again less static productions, like there's more movement.
But most critics though are living in New York, right? And so they likely are critics. They go to plays, they go to musicals. No,
I don't want to presume that. No,
okay.
I mean there's like all the years that I was doing film criticism here in Vancouver, I never once saw one of they were almost all men. I never saw any of them in the theater when I was doing theater criticism.
Okay. Well, I stand corrected.
It's kind of siloed.
Yeah. I just thought that these would be more worldly people, but...
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, much like this movie.
So, a chorus line. Does it pop?
I'm going to say yes, because I don't have anything to compare it to, and now I really want to see the musical, and And I still find it a fascinating story, and I still feel like I got the things out of it that I was supposed to.
All right, AG.
I'm gonna say maybe it's extremely hard to watch, and so like in terms of it being available, like
Oh,
it's hard
that
to
too.
it's hard to
Yeah.
find. Um, and so I wouldn't recommend someone going out of their way and
Fair.
paying a lot of money to see it. But
Don't pay the $14 that I did to buy it on YouTube. Don't do that.
If it happens to be on TV or something or on Netflix, sure.
But go see it. That would be our recommendation.
Yeah, exactly. Even though I haven't seen the Broadway production, I hope to one day.
Yeah, I hope there's a revival again, because I do think, as you pointed out, Andrea, that these themes are resonating again. This, the megalomaniac director, choreographer, and the people who are stuck into these horrible positions just because they want to dance or act. I think that resonates right now. It also makes me sad that we've been knowing about this problem for a long time and we've done nothing about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Hollywood was built on it.
Yeah.
So, fun times.
Yes.
I can't say that it pops for me, but I'll give it like a half pop, because it did still make me feel things, and it gave me, like, I guess I just love theater that much that it actually was enough of a sort of little hit my theater sort of nerve about how I haven't seen it in a long time, and I got kind of excited and choked up every time there was a large choreographed number.
That said, I didn't get a chance to see Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway, obviously, but I am looking forward to the movie adaptation. I'll still, because I haven't had a chance to see it as a play.
We did see it
And
on Broadway, and I did not care for it.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
There's that too.
I won't say anything more. I want you to have your own experience of it, but I would love to discuss it after.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure we will do that.
Because yes, it is coming out this year.
Yeah, I think Christmas or something. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What a Christmas movie. My God. Yikes and a half. So we love to leave our episodes on things we recommend. Lisa, do you want to go first?
Sure. So on Netflix, I saw that the number one show in Canada was Lucifer. So I started watching it, and I'm having a great time.
Great.
I am.
Great.
Have
So
you watched
excited.
it?
I've never watched it, no.
It's filmed in Vancouver. That becomes very apparent if you're from here. They do a pretty good job of making you believe it's LA, but darn, that's Vancouver. So anyway, for a throwaway show to watch at the end of the day when you don't want to think anything, just tune into Lucifer. I don't think you'll be too disappointed.
That sounds
It's
perfect.
a weird review, but that's what I'm giving you.
No, sometimes that's all we can do. I love it. AG?
I'm going to recommend an op-ed in the New York Times this week that's about Naomi Osaka, as I was mentioning before. It's called "We're Finally Starting to Revolt Against the Culture of Ambition" by Kelly Maria Korducki. And I just want to read a couple of sentences that she wrote in it. She wrote, Ms. Osaka has given a public face to a growing and long overdue revolt. Like so many other women, the tennis prodigy has recognized that she has the right to put her health and sanity above the unending demands imposed by those who stand to profit from her labors. In doing so, Ms. Osaka exposes a foundational lie in how high-achieving women are taught to view their careers. And it goes on to say, in a society that prizes individual achievement above most other things, ambition is often framed as an unambiguous virtue, akin to hard work or tenacity. But the pursuit of power and influence is, to some extent, a vote of confidence in the profit-driven myth of meritocracy that has betrayed millions of American women through the course of the pandemic and before it, to our disillusionment and despair.
Hear, hear.
Excellent work.
Yeah.
And
It's a great essay.
Kelly Maria Korducki is from Toronto, I think, originally, right?
I'm not sure.
I think
this is the first thing I've read of hers, so I don't know.
Wow,
Okay.
that is amazing. Okay.
I think they have a book, and I can't remember what it's called right now, but I can look it up real fast. So she's based in New York now, but she was the former editor-in-chief of the Torontoist. And she has a 2018 book that I know is incredibly popular called Hard to Do, The Surprising Feminist History of Breaking Up.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's look that up too then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's a great writer, and that's a great piece.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to go with some music. It's just one song from, and it's a pretty new song from an artist whose name is Nimkish, Nimkish. She's an indigiqueer artist based here in Vancouver, and the song is called YSB, featuring Ascension, who is an artist out of Portland. YSB stands for Young, Sick, Broke, and it's a bop, man. It's so good. It's just great, and she's got a new album coming out sometime this year, I believe. So I'm really excited about it.
Excellent.
Well, mine's
Yay.
the definite, not such a intellectual offering. So start with the important things, and then, when you're feeling really, oh my gosh, flip onto Lucifer. There you go.
Look, we need room for all of it in our lives. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening and for sticking with us throughout our series. I hope you're having as much fun as Andrea Gin is.
Ooh, I hope
And maybe
more
even-
than that.
I hope
maybe even as much fun as Lisa and I are having.
This is our element.
I want to baseline it as like, I hope you're having at least as much fun as AG, and then
It's
as
been a
much
real
fun,
roller
ideally.
coaster.
Yeah.
Real roller coaster.
Yeah, it's only going to get better. You can hang out with us on social media, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You could rate and review us 5 stars on iTunes. You could listen to us on Spotify as well.
And whether or not she likes it or not, Andrea Gin is the chosen one who gets to co-host and produce Pop This. So we thank you for both.
Wow. I never
Yeah.
thought of it like that. Thank
Oh,
you.
it's true. It's true.
What a lucky person you are.
Lucky. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.